Let's move on to our next discussion. We're talking about workflows and the idea of thinking fast and slow. This is brought to us by Robert Johnson, who is Managing Director of Onit, who we learned a little bit more about in the break just gone. Onit are a global leader of enterprise software and artificial intelligence platforms, products with legal, compliance, sales, IT, HR, and finance departments. Their software transforms best practices into smarter workflows, better processes, and operational efficiencies. And there's a real focus on enterprise legal management, matter management, legal spend management, contract lifestyle management, and legal holds. They help global companies bridge the gap between systems of record and systems of engagement. Their website, if you don't know already, you missed it earlier on, onit.com. Rob is joining us to talk to us. He's devoted his entire career to the legal technology industry, all ranging from M&A, e-discovery, and legal department management. He actually started his career working for Foxton's estate agents in London, and then he moved into virtual data rooms and Sarada, an Australian technology firm. He was the first account manager hired in Europe and Sarada, and then he moved to a more senior role at Smart Room before moving to Concilo. Concilo, Rob there worked with large corporations, legal departments to fulfill their technology and e-discovery needs. There's a real wide variety of stuff there, Robert. So we'd love to hear what you've got for us here on workflows, thinking fast and slow.
Thank you for having me, Richard. So I do realise it's 10 to 6 on a Wednesday night, so we're going to keep this light. We've got 20 minutes, right? So in the classic kind of 2020-21 mantra, can you see my screen?
Can you see my screen? Yes, we can.
Can you see my screen? Okay, so can you see a presentation?
Yeah.
Has this worked? Winner. Sometimes this crashes. So thank you so much, everyone, for today. Like I said, we've got 20 minutes for a bit of a discussion. We're not going to do any walkthroughs. We're just going to talk about technology, workflows, and I'm going to try and challenge some of the things that perhaps you've heard today or what you've thought about. Maybe my child's here. Sorry. And so we're going to talk about thinking fast and slow. So just a bit of introduction to this. Every organization has countless wide-ranging workflows, right from the simple things, perhaps requesting an NDA, going through that process, going through that workflow, which can be quite simple and should be taken off legal's, I suppose, agenda and should be left to sales to do some self-service, all the way through to things that are infinitely complex. So we're thinking about configuration, conditional logic. If it's not this, then that. If the moon is shining on a Wednesday evening, then it should go to compliance instead of legal. So that kind of notion. Introduction to me. So as Richard very kindly said, I've been in legal tech for 10 plus years now. Started at an estate agents for my sins, moved into technology as I thought there was a greater scope than that in real estate. I'm now the managing director of Onit in Europe, so I look after everything outside of North America for the organization. Importantly, I'm a dad of 2, so we're currently doing homeschooling, which is an interesting thing in itself, and I live in London. So just to give you a quick overview to Onit, we are now a global organization with offices around the world. We recently acquired an AI, so an artificial intelligence solution based in New Zealand. So we're now in kind of APAC as well. Predominantly though, we are HQ'd in Houston with our support teams out in Austin and London, and we've got teams out in India and again into New Zealand. So we, at our fundamentals, are quite a large organization now. We also acquired an e-billing solution a couple of years ago called Simple Legal, which has grown our customers to over 440. We also support a lot of law firms in that process and some big clients from a contracting perspective as well. So this might be a bit blurred, so I do apologize. So today we're talking about the power of the platform, okay? So fundamentally Onit is 2 things. We are Apptitude and we're Precedent. So Apptitude is a workflow tool, which really focuses on configuration of the platform, and Precedent is our AI platform. So to combine these 2 together, and then you have a really strong proposition on how we can help automate workflows within the business. Now, of course, we've come from a world of legal, so like all technology solutions come from, they come from somewhere, right? So we've initially focused on legal for the first couple of years, and now we've branched out into kind of the, I so supporting business units, because fundamentally legal is kind of the hub of organizations. So on the right hand side, you can see our fundamentals around ELM, contract management, legal holds, and legal service requests, the solutions and things that they support. And again, to the right, you can see a range of solutions that we are now getting involved in, supporting everyone from sales, procurement, to marketing processes and everything in between. So again, what I wanted to kind of talk about today for kind of like the last 10 minutes is really kind of challenge things that you've heard about. So I wanted to try and make it slightly interesting, slightly engaging, and talk about something that we're all familiar with. So everyone may have heard or read the book, Thinking Fast and Slow. This really lends itself to the two types of workflows that you can see in a business, right? You see the really simple things, and then you see the really complicated things. So if we talk about system one, which is simple stuff, right? So things automate quickly. So if we think about thinking faster or slow in your head, how you can come to conclusions with no effort or voluntary control. Our solution for that is Process Builder. Okay, so there's a nice video kind of showing for you here. So how can you automate the simple stuff, right? We believe that there should be a simple way to do it. We also believe that you need the right people to support that process, okay? And so we're talking perhaps gifts and entertainment or a compliance workflow. We're in the financial world, we're supporting ISDA approvals and getting into things like FINRA. So how can we kind of support and automate those things? And that should be a quick win, right? So when it comes to these kind of tools and workflows, it's quite conceptual, okay? So if you're speaking to the business, it's like, we would love to implement a workflow solution, then the business are going to be like, okay, but to solve what? Because traditionally, workflow is already existed. Yeah. So technology's just come to support and augment that. But an email to a phone call to a meeting at someone's desk to talking at the water cooler, all of that is workflow. And we're just trying to take out the administrative bits of that, make tracking available, and make things super easy. So NDA is a great example, as I mentioned before, because fundamentally we can take legal as the first pass out of that. And Rob, so me, the sales guy, I can get my NDA quicker without it getting kind of, I use air quotes, lost in legal, right? So that's kind of one of the fundamentals to think about. The second thing is systems two, okay? So I'm also a huge believer that when we're talking about workflows, it's okay for things to be complicated, okay? Like there are lots of tools out there. If you Google them, you'll be able to solve simple workflow. But there's not that many tools in the world that are comfortable to say that, yes, this is a complex thing that you need to solve. And we have a complex tool to solve that issue for you. People kind of shy away from that because people get a bit worried about the complexity of the process. We have a way of solving that as well. So you can build a simple process in Process Builder, really simple. I can do them myself. But then if you need to flip it to that more complicated, we have a thing called Apptitude, okay? So Apptitude, I've seen it solve really complex situations and processes within organizations with, I suppose, almost hundreds of approvals. If things in the approval process hit certain marks or obligations, then it kind of gets filed out to different people. It can also include external people as well. So perhaps we did a GDPR or a compliance request and it needed the law firm to be engaged with that as well. We can push that process out to them as well, because we don't charge per user within the solution, which ultimately means you can dictate who does and doesn't have access to the tool. So when we're talking about complex things, we're talking about Apptitude. Again, it's still low code. If we use the example of one of our clients, British Telecom, they procured this as a solution. And what they've done is they've actually got 2 BAs in-house working through Apptitude workflows, because again, they understand that their systems and their processes are complex, and they want to use a system that can match that complexity when it comes to the tool. So we, over the last couple of years, have beginning to catalog the things that our clients are building, right? So we call it the Apptitude Solutions Catalog. But fundamentally, we've been selling Apptitude licenses for the last 5 to 10 years and just let clients get on with it. So we've decided to kind of let them go and build their own things. And now we kind of are circling back and having discussions with those guys about what they're building. So for example, when we're talking about HR, we built a whole raft of COVID related applications, which were free. for organizations to leverage and use within the business to support that process, especially in these day and age when we're all kind of separated. And I'm in kind of a room and my lawyer's kind of in Houston and I can't really speak to them in any other way but virtually. Again, the same as if we're talking to IT. So we've built SOX compliance into contract management, not a simple process, not a traditional process, but fundamentally clients come to us when they have a process in place. So let's say kind of an ISDA approval. You can Google that and you could find a solution that could fit it. However, they needed to tie some other really complicated things which they didn't really know where they sit, okay? And one of that great example is SOX. So SOX compliance, they added that to part of their approval process through a workflow that they designed and built within Onit. So again, it's all about trying to save that time, but admit that some things within this world are complicated, okay? So that's just gives you a bit of an overview of kind of the world that we live in. And then kind of finally, just kind of bring it and wrap it all back together. So at our core, we are a workflow and collaboration platform, okay? So we are low code. We have and give you the ability to develop and configure the platform yourselves. So we came to market with this solution about 10 to 12 years ago. Funnily enough, 10 years ago, no one wanted a workflow solution. Everyone wanted defined products. So we built commercial solutions on top of this. So we are the market leader in matter management and e-billing. We are took a huge chunk of money from private equity firm a couple of years ago, and now we have a market leading contract lifecycle management solution, which now includes artificial intelligence and custom workflows. So again, our clients have the ability to not have to rethink or rework the wheel or go through expensive processes with consultants to work out what they need to do, because we've done this hundreds and hundreds of times with lots of organizations running that process. So again, I wanted to keep this sweet and short because I know it's the evening, but that really, I wanted to try and set the pace for kind of what the objective is on it, is to take those really complex solutions and workflows head on, and work with you to support you through that process and kind of give you the assurance that you're not on your own with this. And there are solutions out there for those complex workflows as well. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And if there are any questions, please let me know. Thank you very much, Richard.
Thanks, Rob. There is one here, which again, you may be able to put something specific on. And I know you kind of touched on the idea of having to go into existing systems. Can you roughly give an idea? This question simply says, how much time does it take to integrate the solution into an existing system? It's quite a general question, but you might be able to.
No, that's fine. We can talk generally about integrations. So Onit has a open API or flat file transfer methodology. There's loads of jargon in that, but what fundamentally that means is that no platform, we believe, should be an island, okay? So we come from the legal tech world, where we are getting to the things of concepts about enterprise products. So we've got SAP of this world, Xero in accounting, but legal is kind of slow in that world. So we come to market with an enterprise solution. So we speak to lots of organizations and they go, hey, we've got 15 things we want to solve, but we don't want 15 solutions. But there are a couple of things that we need to tie into. So like an SSO, so a single sign-on or a double authentication, an e-signature tool perhaps, or an HR, an Active Directory. We would build the integration with you guys, okay? So quite often we integrate things like a document management system, so like an iManage or a NetDocs. We would just get on the phone with them, support that integration, and then we look after that integration for the duration of our contracted period, okay? You've probably all heard nightmares around how integrations work and they crash and things like that. We've been doing this for 10 years and we haven't brought an integration down, primarily because we look after that on a daily basis. And Richard's laughing because I'm sure you've got some integration nightmares in your head somewhere. So.
All sorts in there. I mean, integration's obviously a tiny part of it, but yeah, all sorts all the time. So are those generally the most concerns you get from clients? Is it those specifically, or are there other things that worry people about the process before you come on board?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that concerns clients, right? It's the cost. So how much is this going to cost me? And then secondly is, are my team equipped to support this process? That's really key, right? And I think we do a good job on it to not hide the fact that you need to dedicate resource to this process. Whereas I think sometimes people are a little bit flippant around that. but we're also here to support, right? So those are the two kind of things that I think people get into. There's also a classic term called people, process, and technology, which I'm sure people are familiar with. I'm very honest, right? So if someone comes to me and says, Rob, we love the tech, we want to buy it, I always ask them, do you know who's going to do it? And do you understand the process you're trying to solve? And if the answer to either of them is no, we're too soon for you, okay? Because I'm really focused on the technology being successful. And if you buy it and then it's not successful, then obviously no one wins in that environment. So sometimes we delay sales process almost like by 6 months because we only get one shot at doing this thing, right? So especially when it comes to workflow, which again, to start with, can be quite conceptual. We need to ensure that everyone's kind of in the right mindset to kind of develop these workflows internally.
Now, look, we're going to touch on it shortly with the panel discussion, but I suppose whilst we've got a little bit more time, is there a way you can just generally talk a little bit about how COVID has changed or increased the need or effects it's had?
Yeah, it's a good question. So from a COVID perspective, everything has gone remote, right? So we've effectively, a lot of organizations are now calling on us to support them with things like front doors to departments. So effectively, instead of things being, I can go to your desk, Richard, please help me sign this contract, or there's an infringement from an IP related thing, can you help me? That's all gone virtual. And so everybody, including myself, right, we're all reactive. Like, for some reason our days have got busier, right, throughout the last kind of 12 months, all on Zoom. And so our real focus is to take departments out of that reactive mode and help them with workflow. So for example, let's have a dedicated process to triage work. So let's have it go through a front door. So Rob goes to a front door, triages the work, then the system decides where things go. So instead of it going, okay, I'm going to call my mate who is an HR lawyer, but I have a, let's say I have a litigation issue, but he's the only guy I normally go to, we're changing that, right? Because we're going to a process which then the system will dictate who that can go to within, perhaps, for example, legal. So again, it's about supporting and augmenting potentially a broken process.
Good point. We won't go into further because we want to get to the panel discussion and we'll let that open. But for the presentation, at least everything so far, Rob, really appreciate it. Don't go far.
No
okay.
problem. All right.
So
Thank you for me.